All right, let's talk about that agenda. As the cabinet starts to come back together, it's looking pretty good, but I swear if Republicans get in the way this time, they will be primaried, and I will do everything I can to help throw those people out the door. I keep saying this. There is a mandate. I don't care what Mitch McConnell's opinion is or whether or not Lisa Murkowski likes Trump or whatever. This is what the American people want. And if you can't see that when you're in office, you should not be in office.
We gave you a mandate, GOP. We delivered. Now it's your turn. Batter up. Don't let us down again. Me and my people delivered. We delivered. Now it's your turn.
Republicans took back the Senate because of Trump, not to balance him or to stand in his way. Look, I'm friends with a lot of these senators, but some of you are, honestly, you're like the least bad option in your district. Let's be honest here. Okay, look, the Beltway bureaucracy is a disaster. It got to where it is because it's an incestuous blob that prioritizes structure over function. Okay, the blob knows this, and they're freaking out. That's why D.C. voted like 93% for Kamala Harris, because she wasn't going to change anything. But to dismantle this system, you have to understand how it grows. First, there's no incentive to be fiscally conservative in D.C. The way budgeting works is an agency is given a budget, call it, I don't know, $100 million, okay? Their incentive is to spend all of it. Otherwise, next year, they won't get the same $100 million. But if they do spend all of it, then they're almost guaranteed that plus an automatic increase of like 1%, 2%, 3%, who knows? This is why at the end of every fiscal year in the SEAL teams, we would go like skiing in Lake Tahoe for winter training or off-roading in Alaska for navigation training just to burn money. So we would ensure a bigger budget next year. We're not fighting any wars in Antarctica. Who are we kidding at the time? It's the opposite of how it should work, but that's unfortunately how it works. Now, Congressman Mike Johnson, this is where you come in. Your next spending bill should have a zero budget for every agency. Make them come back every year and justify every penny they're asking. Oh, Carl, that would be so much work. Yes, that is the point. Now you're catching on. I work January, February, March, April, and actually all of May and most of June for free. Yes, all of the money I make during those months that I work my tail off for goes to you people in the government in the form of taxes. I want you to work hard, and you should justify every penny that you're stealing from me because taxation is theft. I want you to stress about budgets and whether or not you're going to have a job because I pay for that. I hope you go bald worrying about it too every year. I honestly don't care because you don't produce anything.
These people I would not put in charge of a Minute Mart and 3 gas stations, much less a $6 trillion economy.
One of the few people that make sense in D.C. And folks, if you're sitting there being like, wow, the system sucks, hold my beer. It gets a lot worse, okay? Part of the reason the government is so bloated is because people get promoted based on how long they have been there. It doesn't matter if you actually do anything. There's just a pay and command structure that dictates when you are promoted, whether or not there's even a position available to promote you to. So the government is constantly creating positions to accommodate this stupid promotion schedule. The problem with this is if you get promoted to a certain level, that also guarantees you a staff. So even if the function of the organization does not need you to be promoted, even if you have done nothing to deserve this promotion in government, this applies to the military too. If you have sat there long enough and didn't die or didn't kill anyone, you're almost certainly guaranteed that promotion. And you can see how an agency that starts with 100 people could quickly grow if 50 of them are promoted to a rank that requires them to hire 2 staffers each. And of course, they hire their homies and buddies and friends who may or may not be qualified. But no one cares in D.C. because it's not their money and they don't do anything anyway. I know this firsthand because I experienced it when I was a Trump appointee in Trump's first term, and I was able to actually stop it on a very micro level. I was actually able to reverse it at the small agency I was tasked to run. So Donald Trump, who sometimes watches this show, the only way to reverse the growth of government is to not only fire these people, but you have to eliminate entire departments. You have to get rid of positions and agencies and then sell the building so that there's nowhere to come back to. That's how you make it almost impossible for a Democrat successor to undo this, just like they did at the VA. Biden, look, he rehired 8,000 bad employees that Wilkie fired for cause. And Biden just gave them their jobs back and back pay. Not one person in that whole cabal, in that whole process ever asked, hey, how would this help veterans? No one cared. They only care about structure. So the next 4 years, Trump is already proposing cutting over 100,000 people. That's a good start considering there's almost 3 million federal employees, but I'll take that in the first 100 days. So let's start acting. Much of this starts with Congress giving no money to them in their next budget, but Trump has to follow up as the executive. Before all the establishment supporters start freaking out, by the way, the federal government has more than enough resources to accomplish nearly everything you could possibly imagine, closing the border included, okay? There just hasn't been the political will to do any of this for the last 4 years, okay? In fact, many things would go a lot smoother if you got a bunch of these people out of the way anyway. Let's start with the IRS. Those 89,000 new IRS agents, you're gone. And while you're at it, repeal the 16th Amendment, which would do away with federal taxes, or at worst, just do a flat tax. You could cut the IRS by 95% just out of necessity, because if you did that with our tax code, it would be so simple, it wouldn't require the manning we have now. FISA courts, Trump hates these because Hillary and Obama used it to spy on his campaign. Axed the whole program. This was an end run around the Fourth Amendment anyway, because the government said there was an urgent need. Yeah, right. And then it was weaponized. Get rid of that thing. Department of Education. I'm going to talk about this with two experts in a few minutes, but $238 billion, almost $1 billion of which is spent on payroll for people just in D.C. Get rid of that. Carl, what about the scholarships for children? Dude, no. Okay, that's like their primary alleged budgetary stuff. You know how hard it is to apply for these scholarships? And I know people who almost never get them, who are well due for them. Most of it goes to the institutions themselves, by the way. And I'm thinking to myself, where are all the social justice warriors at Harvard and Yale and all these other Ivy League schools? Where are they? They're the ones saying, oh, we need it for the scholarships. Well, they have a $50 billion endowment. Why aren't they offering scholarships out of that? Yeah? Not as important when it's coming out of your pocket, huh? Harvard. State Department, 30,000 plus employees, axe 80% of them. You don't need a Department of Redundancy department. Don't believe me? Go in there and ask how many signatures it required to move the American embassy to Jerusalem. It was like over 100 people had to sign off on that. It should be like 3 tops, including the president. The VA, that place is a dumpster fire. They have 400,000 plus employees, and I still can't get an appointment within an hour of my house in under 2 months. Sell every hospital, fire every administrator outside the benefits department. Privatize the healthcare process. I'm sure Aetna would give us some sort of deal on that conversion. And Kaiser Permanente would probably buy every hospital at a discount. Done. The DOD. They have never passed an audit, ever. And the last one actually determined that there was $250 billion in waste. I mean, there's your first cut. Combine that with slashing at least, half the civilian employees. We're off to the races. FDA, ATF, EPA, whatever. Whatever other 3-letter cabal agencies is left, same thing. That should be every cabinet secretary's primary goal. This is the aggression in governance you need right now. I expect Elon Musk will probably go further than this, or at least make the suggestion to. And then when the bureaucrats get in the way and they say, oh, sir, there's some red tape and there's a process here. Okay, fine. Task that bureaucrat with navigating it. And then put them on a deadline and say, if you don't do it, you're fired too. And when it's all done, after Congress gives them no money, Trump has eliminated those positions, like make them not existent anymore whatsoever, and then sell those buildings to the lowest bidder. I don't care if it's for $1. Look at it, the GAO. Recently, 17 out of 24 agencies surveyed used 25% or less of available space in their headquarter buildings. D.C. spends $2 billion a year from the federal government to heat, air condition, and power exclusively empty buildings in Washington, D.C. This is a good start for the first 100-day goal. And remember, rhinos, this was our mandate. Get on board or get primaried. Oh, by the way, Senator Cornyn and all these other people in the Senate, J.D. Vance can, in fact, be the Senate Majority Leader. He is the president of the Senate. John Adams did this. And the same reasons the rhinos and the deep state hate it is the same reason I love it.
He loves the Constitution. He fights for what's right. He hates the bad guys. He's a freedom warrior. He's your freedom warrior. Watch Carl Higbie every weekday on Newsmax.